Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Addicts. Hello everybody and welcome back to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast. We reminisce on shit that you haven't thought about in years. I am Bill, this is Matt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing all right. Doing better than you and Alex, apparently.
Yeah, me and Alex caught the plague last week and we were out of commission for about a week. It was fun.
Yeah, it's funny because we were actually the plan was we were gonna have a couple of guests on for this episode, and then you and Alex got sick. Alex was one of them.
Yeah,
You guys got sick, so we ended up delaying the episode. Alex is apparently
still
still
sick.
very sick, so she couldn't make it. And the schedule change made it so that Aaron, who was supposed to be the other guest, also couldn't make it. So it's just us again.
Yep. Scheduling for podcasts is fun. Yeah, it's
Time
been
zones.
time zones, winter, Fridays. It's a lot of factors.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. I still kind of feel like shit and probably might have some coughing, but much better than I was last week. So,
Did you get any anime in
oh, I did.
last couple weeks?
I got a lot of anime in, and I trolled Slade.
I noticed.
Yeah, Jared was right on the money there.
I kind of figured, but you see,
But
you gotta hold out hope, man. You gotta hold out hope.
I mean, I'll watch it. I'll have fun. I'm gonna have fun with that. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure, sure.
I kind of have to now because Alex is watching Dragon Ball Z, which is hilarious because she's like play by playing this for me like the entire time. So she'll like post something and be like, why does this character sound familiar or like something or like why
Oh
does
yeah,
everybody?
all the alums are in
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z.
Well, my favorite one was she commented that Dende sounded a lot like Toru from Fruit Baskets. I'm like, well, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah. It'd be even
Uh,
funnier once the time skip happens and Dende's voice actor changes. She's like, huh.
yeah, and then
Sounds
Trunks.
a whole lot like he wants to kick my ass.
Yeah, and then Trunks becomes Toru for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
My favorite was when she got to Frieza. She's like, "Why does Frieza sound like an old lady?" And I was just like, "Oh right, she
Linda
doesn't know
Young.
that." Yeah,
Classic. So wow, she's whipping through it, huh? Because it was just a couple days ago she was posting Saiyan Saga shit. She's already
oh,
on
yeah.
Frieza.
Yeah, she's up. She's in Frieza Saga now.
Has she gotten to the Ginyu Force yet?
She must have because she's got the Dende, so she's probably there.
The Sabbath Force.
Yeah. My favorite part is when she's like, "Why is everybody dying?" And I'm like, "Alex, you've seen Super. You know everyone lives."
Yeah, this is true.
Oh,
But nobody knew at the time. But at the same time, when it was first airing, we didn't know any of these characters. They were all brand new characters to us. We didn't have the original series to get to know them. So it wasn't really like, it was like, oh my God, people are dying.
My absolute favorite Alex moments though were her the first thing she comments to me when she starts watching is the guy with the long hair needs to put on some pants, and I'm just like, Reddits? And she's like, I don't know, but whoever he is, he needs to put on long hair. So I sent her a picture and she's like, she's like, yes, him. She's like, is that Vegeta's brother? And I'm like, it's a brother.
It's someone's brother.
And then she's like, it's Goku's brother, but the hairline. And I'm just like, yeah, Saiyans are weird. I know.
He inherited his mother's hair. You can't, it is what, which explains why he's so weak, because Gine is not a fighter. So
yeah.
Even though he's a Saiyan elite.
Yeah, and then like a couple like an hour later, she comments, "The bald one needs to wear pants too," and I'm just like, "Yes, Alex."
A lot of people in this show need to wear pants. In fact, none of the main villains wear pants.
Yeah, and then my absolute favorite: why does Vegeta have red hair?
Oh, yep.
I was just like, this is so fun.
Oh, I know. I was mistaken. Boo wears pants. Because God knows what he's got going on down there.
I don't want to know.
But I am very pleased that she's finally jumping into it.
Speaking of anime that I did watch, though, my Annie list profile, I went from having just Baruto sitting there sadly, still at what was the last point I left off on Baruto because it hasn't updated. I haven't watched Baruto in like a year. Baruto's been sitting at 155 for like 2 years now. But I've got a bunch of ongoings for like the first time in a while. Like I watching Soul Leveling season 2 because that dub just started. The first 2 episodes are literally the movie me and Alex watched like a month ago, so that's fun.
All right. I have a comment about an anime movie, but I'll put that aside for now.
Sakamoto Days I started watching. There's only like 2 episodes of that so far.
Is that the one about the assassin guy?
Who's retired and runs a convenience store now.
Gotcha.
It's pretty good.
I've been hearing about it a lot, and I'm gonna have to check that out once it's finished.
Matt Mercer plays the main character, and it's such a perfect casting.
That's amazing. I love it.
And then My Happy Marriage season 2. I've been watching that.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that was out.
It's only 3 episodes so far, but every fucking one ends on a fucking cliffhanger, and I'm like, God damn it! Watching this as it's going is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's why I wait for all the currents.
It's gonna be months though before we get there, so I have to know.
Fair enough.
Excuse me. And then over the weekend, I murdered 2 shows. I finally watched Frieren, got that out of the way.
As did I.
And I watched the Apothecary Diaries, which was surprisingly really entertaining.
Nice. Very nice.
And that also has a season 2 that just started that I'm probably gonna have to start watching. So
yeah, I also watched Frieren. I found it very enjoyable. I'm looking forward to seeing more from that. I thought the concept of like the heroes party, but like it starts after they already beat the big evil boss.
Yeah, and they're the only thing left. They're all dead now except for Frieren, basically.
And the dwarf guy.
Yeah,
I forget his. What the hell's his name?
I
should know it because I know it's a name that was another character that I know too. But was it Eisen?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, because the hero's name is a Hummel, I think.
Yeah, which is kind of silly.
I just like the idea that the main character is like OP, but she's like old at this point where she's so because she's lived for so long. Like time is so foreign to her, so like years just feel like days.
Yeah.
And it's got a great.
Huh?
I was gonna say it's got such a good cast. Like Fern and Stark are just fucking amazing. I love those two.
I was really mad that the new priest dipped out so early. I'm sure he'll end up coming back later on.
But it's very implied that he's going to come back, but God knows when. Because I thought he'd be back before the show ended, and I was like, oh no, he's gone for the long run. So we'll see.
I was just happy that we were getting more people joining the party, and then he like almost immediately dipped. I was like, oh man, that's lame. Because I really like the like angle that he brought to the group.
I just liked his whole joke about Fern and Stark being like, fucking children, get together already. God damn it.
Just kiss already.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good watch. All right. So at this point, I have watched what Alex picked for me, and I've watched what Slade picked for me. So now you have to pick something for me because they were both short shows, and I feel bad.
I'll find something.
Yeah,
I'll find something and we'll figure that out.
We'll get to that later, but I do want you to pick something for me.
Maybe during this episode we'll figure something out.
Could be. But yeah, I also watched I finished Bleach. I don't know if I mentioned that in the last episode or if I even had yet, but I finished the original anime for Bleach. Nice. I'm waiting because I think there's still like 2 more episodes that need to come out for 1,000 Year Blood War Part 3. So I'm waiting for that to finish up, and then I'm just gonna binge through all 3 parts. And what else? I watched Berserk 2016. Big mistake. I mean, I watched the first season of it like way back when it first came out. So like I knew what I was getting into. But since I just finished like reading as far as that anime covers, I was like, you know what, fuck it. I just rewatched the 97 anime and the movies. I might as well just fucking continue. So yeah, I watched that, and now I am watching Demon Slayer. Um, and I have thoughts.
I've
I've
heard
watched. Hmm?
I've heard a lot about Demon Slayer. I've heard that it's very pretty, but the story's kind of dry. So
It is very much inspired by Bleach, so I'll say
okay,
that.
that's probably why I
Uh,
haven't been
it's
interested in it.
it's very stylized. It's very pretty to look at, but there's not a ton of substance. Also, the movie makes me very angry because all
Why?
right, so I've watched all right, so I've watched the first season and I've watched the movie and I watched the first arc of season 2. But what the people online, because I had to look into it because I happened to notice that the movie and the first arc of season 2 were the same storyline. So I looked up and I said, I was looking up like, oh, is it worth, if you watch the movie, is it worth watching the arc? Is there any point to it? And everything that I saw, all the people that commented on it said, yes, there are differences. There are little bits added in the arc. There's this and that, blah, blah, blah. There was one prequel episode at the beginning of the arc. And then the rest of it was literally line for line, beat for beat, the animation scene to animation scene, exactly the same as the movie.
Yeah, I've heard everyone I've talked to has basically said don't watch the movies because there's no reason.
Yeah, I mean it's mildly annoying for me, but I feel bad for all the suckers who got duped into paying ticket prices for that movie.
Well, the thing about it was because I learned this with Solo Leveling. The whole reason behind these movies that they've been putting out lately is they're essentially sneak peeks at what's coming out.
Yeah. Well, at least, in cases like with, say, Dragon Ball Daima, they were transparent about that. A lot of these other places are just saying, like, hey, look, Demon Slayer movie. And then you go see the movie and it's like, oh, that was great, blah, blah, blah. I can't wait to see the next thing. And then the next season comes out and it's like, oh, hey, remember that movie?
See,
You know?
the thing about the Solo Leveling movie was the reason I had such a gripe with it was because I had just watched the series. So like when I went to go see the movie, the first half of that movie is literally a recap of the series up to that point of all
Yeah.
shit I had just watched. And I was like, cool. Then it gives the first 2 episodes of season 2, which was awesome at the time. Getting like a sneak peek of that. The only downside is now that we're at season 3, I mean, we're at season 2 coming out properly. I have to wait like 3 weeks to get to like new stuff because the first 2 episodes are literally the shit I already watched.
Yeah, I feel that.
But I knew that coming into it, so.
So while I am frustrated, I mean, I got an easy extra check on the list for animes watched for the year by watching the movie. So
What are you up to so far? I'm already at 7.
I'm at 10.
Nice.
I'm like, I just started the second arc of season 2. I got like 10 more episodes of that, and then that'll be another one.
Yeah, I'm thinking my next major project is, besides ongoings, which I'm going to be just watching as I go. My next one I'm going to watch is Ghost Stories, just because I need that. That one is specifically for content. It's I have to watch it. It's such an infamous show, but I'm gonna watch Ghost Stories, and then I think after that, I'm finally gonna sit down and watch Attack on Titan.
Don't say it out loud, Bill. Don't say it out loud.
I mean, like, I can just do that, and everyone will understand. But yeah, it's that's my plan, unless something major happens between then and now. Like something comes up that I have to watch, or I go on a month-long anime hiatus or something. But that's my goal. That's the goal so far.
Yeah, so my general game plan for the year is like I've mentioned multiple times. This is going to be my year for the long shows that I've been avoiding for a while. So, like basically, like the idea is like I'm gonna watch a long show and then I'm gonna squeeze in like maybe 2 or 3 shorter stuff, maybe a couple movies, and then I'll go to the next long show. So I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna get through all of Demon Slayer, and then I'm gonna bang out a few little ones, and then I'm probably gonna hop on My Hero. Or actually, I mean, I still have to watch 1,000 Year Blood War, which will count as 3 separate ticks, which would be good.
I still need to finish Bardo. That's like gotta get taken off the list this year. But I'll probably do that after I finish Attack on Titan. So maybe it won't get done this year. Oh man.
Well, I would have already finished Boruto, at least the canon stuff, by now, but Hulu doesn't have all the dub apparently, so I got cut off at like 210.
Huh.
Which, and what's funny is there isn't even like that much manga canon stuff after that point. It's like maybe 20 or 30 episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt a little blue balled by that, but I kind of whatever.
Yeah, give it time. They'll eventually get it up there.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, but still, I mean, they have come a long way with shipping in, but they still don't have the whole dub. And it's been like a decade. So
well, they want you to buy those damn Blu-rays. I mean,
yeah.
You know, for all the people
I still to this day haven't seen all like the full war arc in English because of that bullshit.
Well, I mean, it's perfect. Like they release all of the DVDs, and then once you go out of your way to get all of those, they're like Blu-rays, and I'm just like, fuck you, because I ain't doing that again. I'm not doing that again. Buying all of Shippuden drove me mental. Like,
yeah, no shit. And you went in reverse order.
Well, yeah, because it was easier. Getting those early ones was a fucking pain in the ass.
So I did, in other news, I did start playing Rebirth.
Nice.
I'm not very far. I'm only like maybe 4 hours into, maybe 4.5 hours into it. I like just got to the part where like the world opens up, and holy shit, it is a huge game. Like just like walking out into like the first fields, like it's insane how fucking big this game is. And they added like a bunch of cool little like things, like there's like team attacks now, and like crafting and stuff. Like that's a new aspect to the game. And I don't know, it's just I'm excited to really dive into it because it looks like it's gonna be really fun. Like it doesn't look like it's going to be one of those like open world games that like is completely devoid of anything interesting to do. Because I've had more than enough of those in my life. But I feel like Final Fantasy VII is one of those franchises where like they wouldn't get away with doing that, and they know it, so they kind of have to do something interesting with it.
Well, they have to, because it's that game is one of the most anticipated games ever, which is why it's so controversial, because it was so anticipated that fucking everyone couldn't decide what they wanted, and then when they got it, they're all mad because it's not what they wanted. So you know,
gamers never know what they want.
No, they don't,
unless they only play retro games, in which case it's all already there. So,
well, yeah, I mean, it's just such a much easier way to live.
Yeah. That's fair. But yeah, that's about where I'm at the moment.
All right. So we should probably get into Daima, our new segment on the show.
Yep. Daima it's not season, episode 2. Less recappy, but still kind of more of the same.
Yeah, this was another case where I felt blue-balled fucking watching the Daima episode. I was like, God damn it, we're really doing this again.
Don't worry, there's going to be some action in the next episode. Nothing crazy, but there's going to be something.
I've heard. So I am looking forward to the upcoming stuff, but god damn, like the whole time I'm just sitting here going like, Toriyama, you madman, why'd you do this to us before you left us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the first like Dragon Ball anime that has like a plan that isn't nice. This is the first Dragon Ball anime that has a plan as far as like, you know, not going based off of like a pre-existing manga. So, and at this point, I've seen 3/4 of the show, watching it subbed, and I like the way that it's unfolded, even though a lot of other people have shit on it.
Is there a confirmed episode count? Because it comes up on all the tracking apps as like unknown how many episodes there's going to be.
It's going to be 20.
Okay.
And it's funny because I've been seeing a bunch of articles being like, oh, Daima ending on this date. Confirmed. Now confirmed. Only 20 episodes for Daima. I'm like, guys, I knew this before the show even started. Where have all of you been? Like,
sleeping probably. It got announced and no one actually cared that much at the time, and then now that it's out there, like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm enjoying it. So yeah, episode 2, we get our first taste of a lot of the like recasts for the kid characters.
It's weird that like the only actor that's like an old actor is Stephanie Nadalny.
I know,
because everybody's new apparently.
I am anger that Krillin's voice is not the same Krillin voice that I grew up with,
which I didn't get because they got her back in Super.
I know. It really fucking annoys me, and I don't understand why they did it that way. And it's such an iconic voice. Like, I swear to God, like that, like as much as I love Stephanie Nadalny, I swear to God, the Kid Krillin voice from OG Dragon Ball is more nostalgic to me than Stephanie Nadalny's Goku. I couldn't tell you why. It just is.
I was actually surprised they recast a few characters. Like they recast Bulma, and I was amazed that they didn't just use Monica Rai, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I mean, they did with everybody, and even well, I mean, wasn't it Laura Bailey who played Kid Chi-Chi originally?
Yeah, I understand why they.
But that makes sense.
I was amazed they didn't get Alexis Tipton because she's usually the Laura Bailey stand-in, but I guess they wanted to try someone new.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Chi-Chi had much to say.
Maybe they're trying to reflect the Japanese, because to my knowledge, I believe that they did the same thing in Japan, where pretty much everybody except for Goku's voice is different. And I think, at least over there, the theory behind that is that because all the original Japanese cast is getting so up there, like they wanted to kind of try and introduce new people to possibly take over those roles in the future. Which makes sense. I mean, they've already had to replace a bunch of people over time due to untimely death and whatnot over in Japan.
You know, another thing that bothered the fuck out of me, though, and this is just a personal thing. Young Roshi. Why is he bald? He had hair back in the day. He had hair back in the day. That pissed me off right away. I was like, did they forget Goku went back in time? I don't know. Toriyama probably did forget. Let's be real here.
Well, I mean, Toriyama didn't write that filler episode, so
true. It bothered me. I was like, he had hair, and why is Krillin bald? I mean, I get they want to do old Krillin, but he had hair.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah,
that is so bizarre.
They went out of their way to get his hair right this time, and then they just were like, nah, bald.
Yeah. Well, you know what I thought was funny though was well, first of all, Mr. Satan. I love little Mr. Satan.
Yet Mr. Satan gets a full redesign. And I'm like,
yep. I wish Mr. Satan went with them to the demon world, honestly.
He probably wouldn't make it back.
Yeah, he would. Mr. Satan survives everything, and we all know it.
By running and hiding.
He survived against Cell and Boo and Baby, if you want to count GT. He lived through a lot of shit.
Well, yeah, I guess.
He went one-on-one with Kid Boo. And he still lived.
Also, it annoyed me that Chi-Chi's young design is just her old design, but small.
Just small, yeah.
When she had it,
they weren't gonna stick her in the metal bikini. So.
Well, it didn't have to be the bikini. Just she had like a different hairstyle back then. They didn't have to.
This is true.
This is semantics. It's things that like only nerds get annoyed about.
I did like the Master Roshi's kid voice sounds so much like I thought it was Mike McFarlane until
I did too, and then I looked it up and it wasn't.
And I was surprised with how similar it was. Like that's definitely gonna be their go-to. Like if Mike McFarlane ever retires, like that's definitely whoever that was. That's who they're going with. And Vegeta and Piccolo's voices were interesting too.
Yeah, Vegeta's was weird. I'm surprised they didn't get Sabat to do a younger sounding,
because he's done Kid Vegeta in small scenes here and there throughout Z and Super and Battle of Gods, and so it's not like he hasn't done it before. So
it's not a big deal.
I mean, it is interesting to kind of get different actors' takes on characters, and this is a perfect excuse for them to do that. So, it is
Also,
pretty weird having a new Dragon Ball show where we only get Shemmel in like the first episode.
Shemmel, Sabat, like all of these iconic actors.
I don't know how I feel about Popo's voice.
Yeah, to be honest, young Popo was a little disturbing. I wasn't really okay with that.
Yeah. I did like the scene of Goten and Trunks just being like, "Hey, we're babies," and like they're just doing baby shit, but they're like telepathically communicating. Like,
Yeah, that was Dragon Ball. This is the early episodes, I will say, are very tonally weird for Dragon Ball.
they reflect like early Dragon Ball a lot, but it's later. It's like post Boo, so like they're like high level, like they know all this shit, like all these like high level techniques and stuff, like being able to communicate telepathically and all that other shit. But now they're kids again.
I loved Shenron's little dickhead moment right before he
I
left.
know. That was perfect.
Where he was like, no, multiple wishes are only for my special customers. Everyone else,
they're for my return. They're for my return customers.
They're for my regulars. Everyone else can get fucked. And I was just like, I love Shenron.
You have to get this card punched 5 times before you can get 3 wishes.
I bet that's something that Shenron just made up on the spot because he didn't like them, and he was just like, "Fuck you!" Like, no.
Yes, I don't like the cut of your jib. I'm just gonna.
You woke me up early. That was not time.
I mean, hey, even in Res F, they gave the fucking Pilaf crew multiple wishes. So.
Well, I mean, the Pilaf crew are regular. I mean, they've used the balls a few times at that point. I mean, he's probably like, "Yeah, all right, you guys are fine."
Well, it is canonical that they have used them at least once because they had to make the wish to make them kids.
Well, then oh no, they didn't make the first wish. They just got the balls.
Yeah,
right.
Pilaf summoned him, but Oolong made the wish.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, that was all pretty fun. I loved, well, first of all, the whole hunt for the power pole. I love the whole bit where Goku was just like, "Oh, I can't fly." And Piccolo's like, "Do better." He's like, "Well, it's so easy. Why don't you do it?" And then Piccolo is just as bad.
I loved Goku just not being able to fly and just like failing. It's really funny. Like, he still has all of his power, but he's not used to the kid body anymore. So he like is struggling. It's kind of like when he lost his tail initially and he was like all off balance.
Yeah, he's like he doesn't have the same kind of control over like he's not used to his size, so it does affect it. And I like that that's like a big difference because not to put too much of a comparison on it. Like with GT, it was just like, "Oh, I'm a kid, but I'm still just as good as everything." Like
GT, GT annoys. The thing about GT that bothers me is not only did they make him a kid, but then he just fucking takes over the show like immediately.
Yeah, well, in GT, it was like, it's like, yeah, I'm a kid, but I'm just as fucking strong. Because they even make it a point at one, like, in GT when he fights General Rildo, he makes a comment, and this is in Japanese too. It's not just in the English. He makes a comment that General Rildo is stronger than Majin Buu, and he fights him in base as a kid, and he does perfectly fine. Like
GT was bad.
The power scaling was just off the fucking wall in that show.
GT had great ideas and horrible execution. Like Goku, I always said in GT, Goku should have, like, once he went Super Saiyan 4, he should have just stayed an adult after that. Like, this kid thing should have been short lived.
Yeah.
But
I did like, going back to the topic at hand, I loved the whole bit with him like being like, "Oh yeah, my power pole, I'm gonna go get that," and then he goes on like a little hunt to get it, and then of course Master Roshi's using it to dry laundry because that's just, he kind of had to bring that gag back from like way back with like the Bancho fan. I was using it as a placemat.
Yeah,
like now he's using all these rare magical like one of a kind items just to do like daily chore shit.
Like, I like the implication too that the power pole's just been up there this whole time. And then at one point it just ended up going to Roshi.
It's super funny.
Because I forgot he never gets the pole back after he uses it the first time. It's like gone after that.
Well, I think he has it when he shows up to the tournament after like he grows up, but he never used it. I think the only time we see him use it after he grows up is Dead Zone.
Yeah, and that's debatably not canon. So
yeah, I mean it can fit into the timeline, but it's not canon.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of those movies can fit into the timeline, but like Dead Zone's one of the ones that can fit the most theoretically. But
and if you're looking at anime canon, it is canon because we had the Garlic Genius Saga later on.
True.
So out of all of, as far as like anime canon, if you want to use Boruto logic, that one is canon.
True. So what were your thoughts on the new character that comes in right at the end?
I mean, I can't say too much because I know more about him.
True.
I've spent more time with him. I like Aaron Dismuke as him. I feel like he works very well for the character.
It's hilarious how he is both a classic Funimation actor, but he's also like a new Funimation actor at the same time.
Yeah, because he started so young.
Yeah, because like everyone was used to his kid voices back in the day, and then when his voice broke, he ended up becoming this like different actor who's like got a new style that's incredibly iconic these days. I mean, like he's the president in Kaguya-sama, a very iconic role. He's got it's just that dry, like sarcastic voice that he can just do very well.
And you'll see as we go along that is going to work perfectly with this character. He's definitely one of that kind of character.
I love the line where like Bulma's like, "Can I look at your spaceship?" He's like, "This is just a car."
Like, yeah, you mean my plane? It goes through space. It's a spaceship. It's like I just happened to go through space this time, but it's still a plane, idiot.
Yeah, it's such a sarcastic dick about it. I'm like, yeah, this is a perfect casting.
Yeah, for sure.
Was Disney ever in Dragon Ball before this?
No, this is his debut, to my knowledge.
I wonder if he played someone in Super at one point, like an extra or something. I don't know.
It's entirely. He could have played somebody in like the Tournament of Power or something, because there was a lot of random people that got thrown in there. But he has such a distinct voice. I feel like I would have noticed unless he was doing like a specific voice.
True.
I did also like when he did get the power pole, like that one little scene of him just fucking around with it.
Yeah,
was so beautifully animated. I loved that whole little bit.
I love when he gets back to. He's like, "Guys, look, I found my power pole," and it's like, Goku. Half the people here don't even know what that is.
Yeah, right. Vegeta's like, "What is it? It's a stick."
Vegeta is so pissy about being a kid throughout this episode. Like he's like, "Ugh."
Yep. Oh my god.
Because he literally doesn't do anything the entire episode, pretty much.
He's not gonna do much of anything for a bit. Which
yeah, because he doesn't get to go. He doesn't get to go, right?
Yeah, he shows up late. He and Piccolo show up late.
But I
mean, it's also kind of good though because it gives Goku time with. Well, first of all, it gives Supreme Kai more of spotlight because he's a significant character in this story, and it also gives us more time with the new characters.
Oh, I also love Bulma just using Kibito as like her personal slave for everything now.
I mean, it's pretty typical Bulma at this point.
I just like how Kibito's like the new target for her, and every time he's like, "It's not really my job, but okay."
Yeah, well, she doesn't know Whis yet, so I mean,
okay, does Whis even exist in this universe? That's the real question.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say anything about that because they haven't been specifically mentioned. I'll say that, okay. But there is a scene later on where they're discussing the Kai race, and it shows all the Kais that we saw in Super as like a brief little like screen or a brief whatever picture of just all of them, like Gowasu and all them. So theoretically, this is part of the same timeline. I don't understand how that would work with the whole Supreme Kai and Kibito being unfused thing, because that kind of puts a wrench in the whole bit. But
well, I mean, the connecting Super to End of Z still doesn't make 100% sense either. So
yeah, well, but yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's too much else to say. It was we definitely got more out of this episode than the last one, but it's still very much a build-up episode.
Yeah, I mean, we got more of the actual crew hanging out, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, for sure. And starting next episode, we'll be in the Demon Realm, so that will be very fun. I'm looking forward to some of the hijinks we get there.
Nice. Yeah, looking forward to checking that out probably sometime after we record.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess that wraps up Dima Time. That's our new segment for the show. So I guess we should move on to our topic for this episode. It's another anime-focused idea. Matt actually proposed this one. Do you want to take it away from here?
Yeah, so we were thinking about doing one kind of more focused on like, because we've been getting a lot of remakes, a lot of reboots and stuff like that for different animes. So I was thinking like, what are some other animes that we think deserve the quote unquote Brotherhood treatment? Reanimation, or alternately, we could also say a Kai treatment, which is kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, I think to specify the difference, like a Kai treatment would be taking a previous series and streamlining it and basically cutting out all the bullshit and making it more easy to digest for the average fan.
Yeah. Whereas
Meanwhile,
the Brotherhood treatment would be just like taking an anime that wasn't done properly in the first place as far as being accurate to the original source material, and completely making a whole new anime out of it, staying in line with the original source material.
Because famously, the term Brotherhood, Brotherhood anime that we're making up right now, that comes from obviously Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which was famously an anime where the original series got caught up to the manga, and then rather than waiting for more manga or just ending it, they just completely went off in their own direction and made up their own story. And this one is the most famous because like the 2003 Full Metal Alchemist is wildly different than like the actual manga,
for sure.
but it has a dedicated fan base, and that's why it's kind of become like the pinnacle of this phenomenon of like a non-manga accurate anime that later got a proper Brotherhood treatment later on.
Yeah. So like some examples that we could speak positively about would be obviously Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Fruit Baskets 2019, Hellsing Ultimate,
Rurouni Kenshin so far.
Yeah, so far. I'm still waiting for that to. I think it's gonna be like March for the dub to finish, so I'm waiting for that. There's also the One Piece, which that's kind of like a weird hybrid of the two.
Yeah, we don't know if that's going to be a Kai, because I mean, to be fair, One Piece.
It is going to be a new animation. It's going to be completely redone.
Yeah. The thing is, though, One Piece isn't really manga inaccurate, so this is going to be just it's an interesting new thing entirely at this point.
Yeah, it's like a weird hybrid. It's like kind of taking like an anime that originally came out as like a long running anime, like say a Dragon Ball, and making a whole new version of it, but making it seasonal. Much like Kenshin, that they're doing with that right now.
There's also examples where like the redone version ends up not being nearly as good as the original. Like in my opinion, the Sailor Moon Crystal, from what Alex tells me and from the little I've seen, not quite as memorable as the original series, despite being more manga accurate.
Yeah, and as I brought up earlier, Berserk 2016 is also a very good example, where that one isn't necessarily a remake; it's technically a continuation, but it was done very poorly. So
and then another new one currently going on is we've got a couple of them. There's Urusei Yatsura, the classic Rumiko Takahashi series that just recently got a completely reanimation, which is much more accurate than the original anime. And Ranma 1/2 is currently ongoing with a new anime project as well.
And we also there's also Trigun Stampede, which is currently going on. Still waiting on a season 2 for that. As we mentioned, Rurouni Kenshin. The completely unnecessary Yu Yu Hakusho remake, because the original anime is fine.
That one's
I don't understand why they're doing that, but
yeah,
there's very minor differences between the anime and manga for that, so I don't know why they think they need a remake, but whatever.
Try to think of it. I'm not sure if there's any other major examples.
There probably is. We're just blanking it though, because there's actually quite a few of them going on right now.
Yeah, there's been a surprisingly large amount of series releasing that are just manga accurate interpretations.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very interesting too, because it's crazy just how accurate a lot of these animes have been as of late.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big benefit to seasonal anime kind of becoming the norm in recent years, as opposed to like say the 90s and the 2000s where it was either going to be like a season, like a 25 episode series and then it's done, or it would be something like, one of the big three or Dragon Ball or Rurouni Kenshin, where it just, even if there's no manga material to work with, they're just going to make up their own shit and just let it run.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we should start with the obvious elephant in the room with the big three. Obviously, the One Piece is already kind of getting that, but
Even
Naruto and
in,
Bleach both are very much in need of a more streamlined version.
yeah, in terms of streamlinings, Naruto definitely needs one because the original Naruto and Shippuden are both very long and full of a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, and Bleach. I mean, Bleach at least has the benefit of not being as long as Naruto by any means. I think
But
the total episode count for Bleach is like 360 something total, and about half of that is filler, which is a lot. But at
it
least
doesn't
it's
Bleach have whole arcs of filler that are just pointless.
yeah. I mean, so does Shippuden, but
True.
and Shippuden is longer, but but at the same time, I do feel like Shippuden's story is better.
Well, the thing about Shippuden is a lot of its filler wasn't really bad. It was the filler where it was like the
It was the
filler that was
placement of the filler.
yeah, and the filler that was bad in particular was like the flashback episodes to two episodes that literally just happened. Like
Yeah. And another big downside with Bleach was like I don't even want to call it recap, but they would like pretty much just take like the last like 3 to 8 minutes from the previous episode and put it at the beginning of the episode. Like, and that kind of thing would happen a lot. And I know Naruto was a little bit guilty of that too, but Bleach was really bad with it. I noticed on my last run through it.
yeah.
So if they did a full streamline of Bleach, it would probably only be like 150 episodes. It'd be pretty short.
Maybe I'd actually watch it and get more than 3 episodes before I fell asleep.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because once I actually cut out all the filler, I was surprised with how quickly I actually got through it. And I'm actually really excited to watch the new stuff. So that'll be fun.
So, talking about series that I feel like could use a Brotherhood treatment, this one I actually was thinking about because we've been actually talking about the manga for it. But Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I'd say. Well, I think I mean yes, because the anime that like the original anime definitely is incomplete to say the least. But I think the American dub paints it as worse than it actually is.
True. True. I mean, I'd still like a full-on recreation with better animation that covers like season 0 and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And do it like more concisely because there's a lot in the manga. Which actually I forgot to mention. I only need one more. Actually, the last one I believe is a 2-in-1, but I only need one more, and I'll have the whole
Nice.
series. So that's good. But yeah, the Yu-Gi-Oh manga is wild, and if they did like a full-on like anime remake for that, like that would actually be really interesting.
I want to see Psycho Yugi in animation form.
Yeah, like I want to see like some of the crazy shit. Like, I mean, I know we saw it in season 0, but with like current and like
Oh yeah,
current,
like the random like game masters of the week where it's like today we're playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. It's just
yeah.
like
Today I'm gonna beat the shit out of you with yo-yos,
yeah.
or
Uh,
I'm gonna play a fighting game at an arcade and then get beat up by a Bruce Lee wannabe.
or I'm gonna murder your Tamagotchi because I can do that.
Yeah, like there's some wild shit. Like I'm gonna play ice hockey, but or whatever the fucking like it's like table hockey, but it's gonna have explosives in it.
I would love to see like the first reaction of like if they actually redid Yu-Gi-Oh in like the manga form for an anime and like all the people who had only ever seen the anime watching it. I would just love to see like Yugi, Joey and Tristan right off the bat. Just the reactions to how much of dicks they were.
Oh, for sure. And even like later on, like after Joey or Janochi, I should say, becomes Yugi's friend, like Tristan Honda is like still like it takes a while for him to come around. Like he's supposed to be like kind of like the nicer guy in the group, even though he's like the tough guy. But like he's the last one to actually be like, all right, Yuki, you're actually kind of cool. Like he's still a dick to him for a bit.
I love the idea that like we have Tristan's original voice, and I always used to think like that would be perfect for his dickhead era, and then his later voice is better for his like nice guy era.
Yeah, for sure. And there's like a lot of like silly stuff that happens there. And even just like even if we didn't have like a complete reanimation, even if we just got a redub, but like not for kids. Where they take out all the Shadow Realm bullshit and they actually like treat it for what it is. You know, like, no, that's actually a buzzsaw that's gonna cut your foot off at the ankle.
My only caveat is if they do that, like I'm all for like a more accurate animation, like dubbing, like localization, but I still want like Dan Green and like
oh yeah, I still want the same actors.
Eric Stewart, because it's not Kaiba without Eric Stewart's voice. It just wouldn't be. I need that dork. Like we need that dork.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, that's definitely one that we would need. Another one that I wanted to mention, just because it got brought up on the anime recap for GNC, Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles really got screwed. Because I watched the 2 seasons that were made of it. It was never completed, and it was such an interesting story and an interesting concept. It's something I haven't really seen in anything else, because the whole concept is like, it's not an isekai, but it has kind of isekai elements where they're essentially world hopping, because they essentially like they have like a little creature that allows them to travel to different like parallel worlds essentially, and each of these worlds has a completely different power system, and in some cases no power system at all, and or like there'll be like different problems. Like they'll go to one area and it's like there's all these street gangs, but instead of using like guns and weapons, they have like spiritual familiars, kind of like the last season of Yu-Gi-Oh. Or they'll go to another world and there's no power system, but they go to like a like 1800s era like village, and there's a murder mystery going on, and like all sorts of crazy. At one point they go to a world and they fucking have to do like this crazy, they basically do pod racing, you know, like they do all sorts of crazy shit. And it was actually like the characters were really fun and endearing. You could tell that they were setting up a lot of stuff. The music was great, the animation was great, like they had so much going for it, and they just never finished it, and that really sucks. So I would love to see a more complete version of that.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Trying to think of another one I was that we could go for that. Like, so it's interesting with so those 2 Rumiko Takahashi shows recently got new versions, proper adaptions, I should say. And that's caused a lot of stir with people basically being like, they should do the same for Inuyasha, which I'm sitting here going like, no, it's fine the way it is. The final season is a bit rushed, but other than that, like I don't mess with something that's fine. I actually did have the thought of this is a little bit more of an obscure one, but Yashahime, I'd actually like to see them do a adaptation of the manga as opposed to what the anime did, because the manga takes a lot of different turns that are very different from the story we got in the anime, and I feel like that would be interesting because the manga actually there's a lot of points in the anime that are kind of rushed or don't make a lot of sense. The manga actually addresses stuff and like the build up makes sense. And I just feel like that would be a much better adaptation. It would get people to be less sour about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially because did the manga for that one start before the anime, or did the anime start then the manga was like an afterthought kind of thing?
It's like Super, where like the manga kind of they both had the same basic outline, but like Sunrise did the anime, and then there's a different writer slash artist who basically Rumiko gave the reins to and with the outline and basically was like, here's the designs, here's the idea, just do what you want and I'll approve it. And the manga ended up going in a much different direction, but it actually has proper pacing and actual story explanations.
That's really interesting. Definitely gonna have to check that out at some point.
Yeah, it's worth reading after you watch the anime so you can see the differences because it's like it's wild how different what they went for.
Well, to be honest, if I was gonna go to that extent, I'd probably just want to read Inuyasha and then move on. But yeah, that's definitely something I'd like to check out at some point. I do like Inuyasha a lot. It'd be interesting to see the differences between the two different versions of Yashahime.
Yeah, because the anime itself, I don't hate the anime like a lot of people do, but I understand it has problems. It was 48 episodes was not enough time for what they were trying to do.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, you look at just the sheer magnitude of Inuyasha, and you can't really sum up the follow-up story in less than 50 episodes. It's just not enough.
The biggest problem with Yashahime that it was that basically we're gonna forever like follow it even from the start was when it was announced, it was specifically highlighted that the reason why it follows Sesshomaru's kids as opposed to Inuyasha's kid is because Rumiko Takahashi specifically requested that she did not want it to focus on Moroha because she did not want it to just be Inuyasha 2. She wanted it to be an interesting, different story. So that's where the angle where it follows Sesshomaru's kids with Moroha being the kind of like a side character that is part of the main plot, but she's not the focus.
Yeah, which I like that angle a lot.
I do too. The problem is they made Moroha too good of a character that everyone was annoyed that she wasn't the main character.
I mean, to be fair, everyone always has favorites with side characters anyway, so.
True. But when the side character... the problem is when the side character is the child of the main characters of the previous story, and they just make her such a great character that even like people who hate the anime still love her. It does become a bit of a distraction, especially because there's nothing wrong with the main characters, Toa and Setsuna. They are interesting characters. The problem is though, because they have to develop, they start out so it's hard to like them, and you have to really get like it takes till like the end of season 1 for you to really start getting attached to them, which I think is the problem.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's a good one. Another one that I feel very much deserves a Brotherhood treatment is Dead Man Wonderland. Because that was a show that because I watched it years ago and I really liked what I saw, and it just kind of ends. And there's no real resolution to anything, nothing crazy. I mean, crazy stuff happens, but nothing definitive happens to progress the story that they clearly had the potential for. And because of the way it ended, after I watched it, I ended up seeking out the manga, and I read the whole manga, which is only 12 volumes. It's not super long. And I realized very quickly that they never had any intention of doing the full story, because they don't include one specific character that's in the show from episode, or should have been in episode 2. Should have been when they were introduced, and they weren't. They completely cut that character out, and that is a very, very important character for the story. And cutting that character out makes the whole thing fall apart. So even if they wanted to go and finish it, they'd kind of just have to start from the beginning. And I don't know. It was just I mean, I know the whole concept of Fight Club prison kind of thing. It's not a new concept, It's not necessarily like, breaking any boundaries or anything, but they add the whole concept of like, oh, all these people have powers, but the powers specifically revolve around blood. And then there's all sorts of like crazy supernatural shit going on aside from all that. But it was such an interesting story, and I kind of liked the relationships between the characters, and they just didn't get enough time in the anime, and I would love to see them go back and do like a more faithful adaptation.
No, I get that, because there's been a bunch of series that have been like that, where the anime adaptation just kind of like, it's either like they only do this one specific portion, or like it just completely falls off a truck like at the end.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another one, because there was one that I had right off the top of my head.
Did you lose it?
Yeah, I'm looking through my Annie list right now. Oh yeah, this one is hilarious because the show itself is awful, but I'd kind of like to see, this isn't so much of a remake or like a reanimation. This is like, I just want a proper redub, like that actually like follows the original Japanese script, just because I'm curious what it'd be like. Sonic X.
Oh, that's interesting.
Sonic X is like that's one of those animes I grew up with, just because it was like the big Sonic show on at the time. And that show has a lot of problems, but one of them is like the dub is horrendous. It is for kids at their worst. Just changing shit to change shit, censoring everything. They cut all sorts of stuff out for no reason.
Typical.
I've watched some of the Japanese subs, because they used to post the unedited subs on YouTube. And there is a lot of shit that I think is kind of interesting. The show itself is still fundamentally a bad show, so I don't know how much better it would be with a proper dub, but I'm just really curious if they got like the modern Sonic cast to redub it, how it would come out.
That'd be fun.
Just one I
know I watched a Sonic show when I was a kid, but I don't know if it was that one, because I know there was at least 2 or 3 going around the same time.
There was the 3 Deke animation ones back in like the 90s. There was Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was like the goofy Saturday morning one. Then there was Sonic the Hedgehog, just self-titled, but everyone calls it Sat AM because it had a Saturday morning time slot. That's the one that's really dark for no reason, and it's like about like freedom fighters and like like a bunch of like like counterterrorism and shit. The 90s were weird. Then there was Sonic Underground. That was the one where he had siblings and they were in a band, and it's bad.
Oh, it might have been Adventures of Sonic.
That's the one that has like the famous like Jaleel White voiced him. Eggman is goofy as fuck in that one, and that one had like the little like PSAs at the end of every episode.
No, I don't really remember anything in particular about it. I just, maybe if I saw like the art for it, I could tell you. But
yeah,
I just remember that I had like one DVD that had some episodes on it, and I watched that a bunch.
Yeah. That being said, though, like a fixed localization wouldn't save Sonic X. It's still a garbage show, but I'd kind of just like to see it.
Yeah, another one that I would love a more complete version of, because I haven't read the manga, so I don't exactly know how much of what they actually did animate was accurate, but I'd love like a complete version of Soul Eater, because that was such an interesting like that was definitely a very like Halloween based show. Like they definitely like took the whole like aesthetic and vibe of Halloween and just turned it into an anime. It's like, how can we make this like goofy but also spooky and creepy at the same time? And they did a good job with it for what they did of it. And I mean, I have heard a little bit of some stuff that happens later on, and it gets kind of dark, but I don't know, just the whole concept of the show, like the characters were fun and lively. But it wasn't just all fun and games. Like there was some, like, I mean, even just take the character of Krona himself, like he was his whole bit was very dark, you know. And there was so much like with the whole concept of like it wasn't about good versus evil, it was about good versus madness. It was about sanity versus madness, and I like that concept a lot. And I would have really liked to see like where they went with like some of like you could tell like it was moving towards something with the way that the characters were developing with their powers and their storylines and stuff like that. Like there was definitely a lot more for them to go, and it just kind of ends after they fight the Kishin. And it was just honestly, it was kind of a bullshit floppy wiener friendship ending, which, as me and my friends used to call it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a very flaccid ending.
Those are the worst.
Yeah. So I would have liked to see a more complete version of that.
That's a good one to actually think about. I had another one that was kind of an interesting thought. I was thinking about this because we were looking for it when you came down to visit, but a proper novelized version of a proper version of the actual novel of Howl's Moving Castle.
That would be cool.
Because the movie's a classic, but the novel apparently is wildly different in a lot of aspects. Like there is a bunch of stuff in the movie like that apparently makes a whole lot more sense when you read the novel and actually understand like all the little intricacies of it. And I'd actually like to see a proper adaptation of that at some point.
Yeah, that would be cool. I liked the movie a lot. The movie was fantastic. Just, I mean, you could tell there's a lot more there just from watching it, even without knowing that there's a novel, because I didn't know that until later.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely, you could tell there's a lot there to unpack, and they did not have 2 hours is not enough time.
Yeah, like a mini series maybe, or like an OVA, they could potentially do more. Just trying to fit an entire novel into a movie is never the easiest thing.
Another one, we mentioned it earlier, or I mentioned it earlier, but it just seems like the world is just fully against us getting a proper Berserk adaptation. I think the 90s one is probably the closest. I mean, maybe if you like took the 90s one and then the movies and smashed them together, like bits of one and bits of the other, and put them together, like those are good. But even then, you're only getting one arc out of the manga. There's so much more to unpack there. More than you could even begin to really comprehend unless you read it. Like there's so much character there. And the thing is, I've heard a lot of people say that like that Berserk won't work in an anime, and a big part of that is because like the whole like the black and white art is like a big like plus for the Berserk series. But I think there's a way you can make it work, though. Honestly,
that's such a lazy excuse. It's like
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who say things like, "Oh, Berserk should never be an anime; it should just only be a manga because blah blah blah." But that's the thing is, I think if people are committed to making a product they can be proud of, they can make it work 100%. And I was thinking about it, and I think honestly, and anyone who hasn't seen it, because we did cover it on the show last year, but I think the best way that they could make it work is if they got this same type of art style / animation style that we saw in the Girl from the Other Side movie, because that was another manga that really relied on the blacks and the whites and the grays. And the way that they did the animation for that movie, like, it wasn't a black and white movie. There was color in there, but it felt like a black and white movie.
You know what's also interesting too? Like the 2016 series is infamous for its awful CGI and just being kind of a bad adaptation. I was thinking about it too, where I was like, they could have done CGI and made it work. They were lazy.
And you know the thing that really since I just watched the 2016 series last week, there are like little snippets like in between the awful CGI where you can see it is like more traditional animation, or they'll show just like a still frame that's just like, very clearly just like a drawn art piece. And that's just such a fucking tease because it looks so good in those like little snippets in between. It looks so good, and they are just like, yeah, no, you're not gonna get that though.
Well, it's interesting because I was thinking of like an interesting parallel is another series that has notably like incredibly intricate and like very hard to transfer to animation art, is the Dorohedoro.
Mm.
And Dorohedoro
Yeah,
managed to do the CGI well, like to the point
I,
where
I,
it.
s- I still think I would have preferred 2D animation. I mean, there's a lot going on in that show, so I understand why CG is just easier in that case.
I've looked through Alex has the full manga of Dorohedoro, and I've looked through a few of the pages. That art is very complex.
Oh, I can imagine, and I don't know. I'm saying I didn't dislike Dorohedoro, but
Dorohedoro made it work.
it didn't fully catch me in the way I wanted it to. Because it just seemed like it was so busy. There was so much going on in just those like 12 episodes that I found it hard to kind of wrap my head around. I liked the characters and I liked like what they were doing with it, but like it was just so fucking busy, and I could not wrap my head around it.
And apparently, according to Alex, it's like that only covers like this much of that fucking
Yeah.
story.
Oh, and I don't know why Dorohedoro made me think of it, but I was talking about how I was watching Demon Slayer. Uh, I was not expect, I'm sure you've seen like stills of it and stuff. The character that has the boar mask
Mhm.
was not expecting Bryce Papenbrook's voice to come out of that.
Yeah, he pops up in weird places.
Yeah, and like the way that he plays that character is so bizarre.
I
But
was
weirdly enough,
laughing.
he's out of like the main guys, he's kind of the one I like the most.
Hmm.
Because the blonde-haired kid is just fucking cringe. He's just so annoying when he's not being a badass. And I don't know if it's the main character just isn't doing it for me, but for some reason the fucking wild child boar kid is like the only one who's like really keeping me invested.
Well, it's really funny because, like, speaking of like Bryce Papenbrook, recently, video game Tales of Grace's F remastered came out, and
Mm,
a lot of people have been playing it. Like, I'm a huge Tales fan. That's my second favorite in the series. And the main character in that game is voiced by Bryce Papenbrook.
mm.
And I was laughing because a mutual friend in the server, Superpod Network, Adam, he was playing it recently, and he had messaged me. He was like, "The main character is Bryce Papenbrook," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is one of his roles before Aaron."
Mm.
Like back when he used to just like have like these. Back when he was such like a minor actor, like he was like typecast into playing like those young teenage boys.
It's wild. Like he's like one of the most like in demand actors nowadays for anime, and it's
because
kind
he
of
was
wild.
because he was Aaron Yeager.
Well, even before that, he was. I mean, like, yeah, like I will not before necessarily, but like before Attack on Titan, really, like before like season 2 of Attack on Titan, like he was still getting a lot of voice work.
He was getting a lot of work, but he was super typecast into like very specific roles, and he was a very divisive actor to a lot of people. Like a lot of people did not care for his voice because he has a style that it works for a lot of things, but not everything. It doesn't hit all the time.
Hmm.
And then he played Aaron, and it was like, okay,
Yeah, well, he knocked that one out of the park.
voice got
Like,
range.
especially when you see like the later seasons of Attack on Titan, like he fucking nails it.
Oh yeah, well that was like the role that he needed to really like blow up. Because I remember too, because he plays another show that I kind of wish that we might bring up later, but he played Red in Pokemon Origins, and that was such a typecast role. Like when before I even heard it, I was like, yeah, that's this is a Bryce Papenbrook role. And then I was like, sure enough.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I could not help but read all of Red's lines in his voice when we were reading the manga. But
it's
on that note, that was something I wanted to bring up. I want a manga accurate version of Pokemon.
A Pokemon Adventures anime would be fucking epic, but I don't know if they would be able to do it justice.
I think I mean if you could do JoJo's justice,
True.
I mean, in a lot of ways, like the Pokemon Adventures story is
It
similar to
has
JoJo's in the
it
way
has a
that like
story.
well, yeah, but like every like arc revolves around a different cast of characters, and yeah, like some of the old ones will pop in here and there, but it always focuses on the new cast for every story arc, and I
Mhm.
love that about it, and that's one of the reasons I like JoJo so much, and Pokemon does that very well in the manga.
Yeah.
Obviously, some story arcs are better than others, but and I am looking forward to getting into some more of the later stuff too. But I would absolutely fucking adore it if they did a full like anime adaptation of that. Like that would be amazing.
I still can't get over the fact that like Nintendo just kind of lets those two just like do whatever with that manga and they don't question any of it. They're just like, yeah, it sells. Let them do what they want.
Yeah. The only thing like even putting aside like some of the more darker aspects of it, not like it's like extremely dark or anything, but like it does get a little bit more violent and stuff than the Pokemon anime we're familiar with. Um Even putting all that stuff aside, I think the biggest hurdle they'd have to get over is the fact that I don't think the Pokemon Company would be okay with them dialing it back to 150. Like
Yeah.
they want to be able to like throw the new Pokemon out there and show them like, oh, buy the new games, and
Oh,
all that stuff. But like
yeah. That would be hard.
dialing it back to the original 150 and going forward that way, I don't know if the Pokemon Company would be able to get behind that.
Also, like the amount of like they the progress like the series rules and stuff were so different then. Like it would be really hard to like go, oh yeah, this is how it used to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like and it's just such a shame because I really I can't see them ever, at least not in any like in the recent future or like the near future. I can't see them doing that. Even putting
No.
aside the things that I mentioned, like I feel like, but I feel like now is like the perfect time because they've retired Ash. So now is their time to experiment. Now is their time to do different things.
No, because they're only about the future and having a new main character that's useless as well.
Or you could just have dozens of main characters that just get cycled out. Like, I don't know. There's just so much they could do with that. And I would absolutely like that is a Pokemon series I would watch beginning to end if they decided to make an animation for that.
Yeah. It probably never happened, but I would love it.
Mhm. But yeah, that's definitely a big one right there.
Um, I don't believe I have any more. Any other ones?
I think I had one or two, but I'm blanking at the moment.
Because I
I
think
know I know I had a couple more. I just can't think of them at the moment.
because
I got a Pokemon tangent.
I'm thinking of like off the top of my head, pretty much everything has either been. It's not so much redoes. It's more I just like there's series that haven't got any new stuff that I'm like I want more of.
Hmm.
Like unfinished series. That's a problem that I have.
Yeah, like we need an ending to Hunter x Hunter for sure.
Well, that's more just the manga's unfinished.
Yeah, which I mean, it will eventually be finished, whether it's him or his wife. It's gonna end up getting finished, but when? Who knows?
I'm
Who
thinking
even
like
knows how much more is planned for it? I don't
oh
know how
yeah,
long he wanted it to go for.
I'm just thinking like stuff like Kaguya-sama where it's like there's still so much
Yeah,
left and it's over. I mean they could finish it. Um,
Comey.
Comey ends in 3 chapters. Like that's nuts.
Yeah. Oh, is another one? It's not. It wasn't a manga, but I'm not gonna say I disliked the movies because the movies were fun. I enjoyed them, but there was a side series for Sword Art Online called Sword Art Online Progressive,
Mhm.
where because I know you haven't watched it, but just as a brief little, I mean, you watched one episode of it, so you kind of get an idea of it. Um, the first arc where they're stuck in the game, the game of death, the whole thing, that goes by very quickly. Like kind of like there's a lot of time jumps throughout that arc. So there's a lot of missing like stuff in between. The Progressive series was a series of light novels that Reki Kawahara wrote, where it literally takes that story floor by floor by floor, starting with floor 1 and going up. And they did do a couple of movies based around that. But they kind of changed some stuff around, and I would like to see a more accurate version of that. That would be nice.
I'd be.
I'm just saying, I feel like SAO gets a bad rap.
It was one of those. It was one of the first isekais, technically, and
for one of the first big ones, at least.
Yeah, and isekais have such a weird rap with people. People either love them or hate them. So
yeah,
and that one is pretty infamous for just being early on. So,
but yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where, like, if we had done this episode, like say if we had done this when you first started GNC, there'd be a lot more on the list. But they've been doing a lot of these
recently. It's been like left and right, like, oh, manga accurate. Like, I don't think anyone expected Rurouni Kenshin to get one, especially with the stuff surrounding the author. But that's everyone knows. We're not going to dwell on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that one's been huge.
I mean, even you know what actually would be kind of cool. They're obviously it's never going to happen because we already have the product we have, and for the most part, people are happy with it. But it would be kind of cool to see like the manga version of Super animated.
Yeah, I mean, especially the stuff that is not animated. But
that stuff will come in time. But
I'd like to see, or maybe if they did like a couple of OVAs, just kind of going over like the differences of like particularly Goku Black and the Tournament of Power, because they are wildly different.
Yeah, I mean, the Tournament of Power, you could do that in a movie with how short it is in the manga.
You could probably do Goku Black, because they cut out a couple time travels in the manga version.
Yeah, they significantly shortened both of those arcs. Yeah, you could easily do a movie each for those arcs and call it a day.
Yeah,
which actually would work out pretty well, all things considered, because the Battle of Gods movie, Resurrection, the only thing they would be missing there would be Universe 6.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't
massively out of that.
Yeah, and that wasn't massively different.
The only real difference with that was there was no Kaioken Blue.
Yeah, if anything, that the anime adaptation I think is better for that one. Agreed. The other two are debatable because there is things in both that I like more. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's a good place to leave it for now.
Yeah. We got a good hour.
Who knows? Maybe as we watch more animes or recall ones that we missed, we could always revisit. Hopefully, get those guests back on that we were planning on originally.
Someday, Alex will be on the show one day. Just when she's not dying.
Oh, she certainly will be. At the very least, when we cover live action One Piece, and I'm dead set she is going to be on the episode we cover Dragon Ball Evolution.
Gonna make her watch it. We're making progress. She's watching Z, then she'll watch original, and then I'll get her to watch Evolution,
and then she'll watch GT.
I doubt it, but
at that point you got to just complete it, you know.
I'm really looking forward to when she gets to like Cell stuff and like all that wackiness.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of like plot twists and stuff in the Cell saga. Like, and she's the androids in Cell, like stuff is like constantly, oh, these are the bad guys. No, wait, these are the bad guys. No, wait, this is the bad guy, but this isn't his final form.
and she's watching original Z, like original Goofy dub and all. So like she's getting like the full experience, like all the goofy shit that like no one needed. But like,
is she watching it on Crunchyroll?
Yeah.
All right, so she's at least getting the redub.
Yeah, not the original dub. Like the first attempt dubbing. But...
Oh, have you asked her how she felt about fake Namek?
She was just kind of like, that was pointless. That was like her response, basically.
Yeah, that's just about how everybody felt about that.
Well, she was more shocked when I told her that's where the series ended initially.
Well, I mean, it was like, I think it was like Ginyu Force. It was like right when pretty much Goku showed up.
It ends right when Raccoon gets the fuck beat out of him. That's basically it.
I am interested to seeing her reaction to like Garlic Jr. Like, seeing like those little filler bits and like the individual filler episodes and stuff like that. Like,
oh, I can't wait till she gets to the driver's license episode.
Like probably the most iconic filler episode of all time.
Oh yeah. I can't wait till she gets to the episode where Chi-Chi beats up the fucking asshole like teacher.
Oh yeah, the tutor that was literally whipping the 6-year-old.
Yeah, like that's one of Chi-Chi's better moments, because Chi-Chi had so many awful moments in that show.
Literally chases him off the property.
She had a few good moments. Like they remembered that she was a character a few times.
She tossed that dude like a good fucking like 15 meters easily.
She is the strongest natural woman on the planet, so before Fidel. So
yeah, this is true. But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff in Original Z.
But yeah, so that was a good chat. We got a good almost hour and a half out of that. But before I die, once again, guys, thank you for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. And be sure to check us out over on the Superpod Network. That is superpodnetwork.com. It's an awesome site where you can find all sorts of different shows, videos, blogs. And you can find all the other awesome shows there like Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, A Novel Console, Bar Silence, Fine Time, the Elder Trolls Gaming Podcast, Remember 64, Gaming Together, Friday Night Gamecast, Gaming and Collecting, The 3DO Experience, Geek Addicts, The Retro Wildlands, Press B to Cancel, the Pre-Order Bonus Podcast, and Retro Mo Reviews. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
Stay canon.